So, Carl, I've heard a rumour.
What's that?
I've heard a rumour that you want to be the very best.
Well, I already am the very best at very specific things that don't particularly matter all that much. But I'm still the best at them.
I mean, the response was meant to be like no one ever was, but okay, I'll take it. Because today on this episode of Wiki Weekends, we are talking about some Pokémon.
Well, I'm always down to talk about some Pokémon, so Lucas, let's talk about some Pokémon. What Pokémon are we talking about?
Carl, before we get into Pokémon, we of course need to just, say a big hello to all the guys, girls, and non-binary pals out there, and say a big welcome to Wiki Weekends. This is, of course, the show where we wind up a wiki, we take a deep dive, and we keep swimming until we find something fun to talk about. And, of course, the wiki today that I've brought up, I mentioned, is talking about Pokemon. And, Carl, I'm recording this ahead of the time, but it's Pokemon Day soon, and I imagine that they're not going to miss an opportunity to talk about the new Pokemon Legends game that's coming out.
So we're talking about Pokemon Legends Arceus?
No, we're not, because you have not played Pokemon Legends Arceus, have you?
No, because I've played Monster Hunter.
It's still quite different from Monster Hunter, and it's one of those things of...
You could say worse.
It is worse than Monster Hunter, I'm not even going to pretend that it's not. A lot of people are big defenders of Pokemon Legends out there, and I'm sure they'd like to see us talk about that, but Carl just doesn't have any familiarity with it at all, so it's just one of those things to mention of like, well, hey, if we hit our Patreon goal of making a gaming channel, then one of those games that I force Carl to play might be Pokemon Legends, either Arceus or ZA.
I like the idea of creating a gaming channel to force me to play games. Are we also going to start a channel where you're going to make me watch One Piece? Is that going to be a thing?
Oh, don't give me ideas, Carl. Don't give me ideas.
One of the goals on our Patreon is to do video essay type things.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that you said you want to do one on is One Piece, which would necessitate me watching One Piece. So we're not going to watch it until we reach that goal.
But of course, you can head over to our Patreon to help get us towards the goals. We've got several other goals, including, extra Wiki Weekends content, as well as gaming content out there and Patreon exclusive stuff. So you can go check out those goals in the links below, and just every little helps. But if you would like to support us just in nice free ways, you can just continue watching this video, you can share this video, you can comment below to let us know what you thought about Pokemon Legends Arceus, or today's topic, Pokemon X and Y.
New 3D Pokemon adventure is about to begin. Introducing Pokemon X and Pokemon Y.
I've also noticed that you're calling it Arceus. So we've had this conversation before, but I forget. Is Arceus the official pronunciation and we say Arceus because it sounds like arse?
Yeah.
Legitimately, I don't remember. Because it's like there's a couple of Pokemon where we both pronounce the name wrong because we read it as children.
Yes.
And it's to the point where we don't know if the jokey way we say it wrong is correct.
And I'm fairly certain that Arceus is the way that the Pokemon Company were pronouncing it when Pokemon Legends Arceus came out.
Okay,
but it's
the other
also
one is
fun to just say Arceus, because then we can throw the word arse in there, yes.
Well, I wanted to clarify that, because people are like, why is Cal pronouncing it wrong? So that's how I read it as a kid, and I didn't hear it said out loud for many years, and by that point I'd already learned the wrong way. Similar to the Pokemon Suicune, right?
The Pokemon's actual name is Suicune, but that was one that I know I got wrong until I played Pokemon Stadium 2, and I know a lot of people pronounced it like Suicune or Suicine or things like that.
Suicine's the one I pronounced it, yeah. Or the other one is Ferrothorn, where the actual pronunciation is Ferrothorn. So it's Ferrothorn, not Ferrothorn. And that makes no sense because, fuck you. Pokemon's wrong on that one.
It's one of those of, as you say, it's an RPG without most of the Pokemon names being voiced. So unless you were playing ancillary content like Pokemon Stadium or you were watching the anime and stuff, you're just generally not going to know how a lot of these weird Pokemon names are going to be pronounced, right?
Well, there's that tweet that sums it up quite succinctly of never make fun of someone for pronouncing a word wrong because it means they read it in a book.
Shut up, Carl. People should only watch videos, and they should only specifically watch our videos.
But we pronounced the word wrong, so if they learn the word from our video...
But they should watch our content, Carl. And anyway, Pokemon X and Y are 2013 role-playing video games developed by Game Freak and published by the Pokemon Company and Nintendo for the Nintendo 3DS. This is like the 6th generation of Pokemon, and I would argue that maybe the Pokemon games that are the most important outside of like Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow.
In what sense? Like, what would make you say such a bold and correct claim?
Not only is this ushering in the change of Pokemon going from 2D to 3D in some aspects, like artistically speaking at very least, like the game is still played from like that weird like semi top-down perspective a lot of the time, but
yeah,
it is technically the first 3D mainline Pokemon game in the series.
Yeah, we're aware Colosseum exists and stuff like that, right? But
yes,
mainline,
course,
as you said.
And it's just one of those as well of like, it also started changing the way that Pokemon really did things where like, the gimmicks became instead of like, hey, it's a double battle, it's like, hey, Mega Pokemon now exist, and now that has like ushered in things like the Z moves and Dynamaxing and Terrestrialization, and just all of a sudden every new generation of games, every new mainline game needed this new wild, like, you know, battle mechanic that has topped all the other battle mechanics that come before.
Now, how do we make Charizard even more bullshit? Fuck you.
How do we find a way to manage to, like, make Mega Charizard Z come out in Pokemon Legends ZA, right?
Yeah.
I am a big fan of Mega Pokemon, but I will very much say that I think that after Mega Pokemon, its influence has made the series worse from then on out.
Yes, and Mega Pokemon are an interesting concept, and I believe myself and you are in agreement that Mega Pokemon are great. Why did they give Mewtwo one? Because the idea of, hey, here are some Pokemon that aren't that great competitively. Mm-hmm. They don't have many viable strategies. They don't really fit that well into many competitive style Pokemon teams. Let's just give them a super form that now makes them useful and gives them an interesting gimmick.
Yes.
So they had like Beedrill, like Pinsir, Pokemon that are popular, but you're never going to see one on a team, right? What an interesting gimmick. But you're only allowed one Mega Pokemon on your team, and we also gave them to Mewtwo, to Charizard, to Garchomp, right?
Garchomp is just better without the Mega form anyway, if you're talking competitive, yeah.
As an idea of how ridiculous some of the Pokemon they gave Mega forms to, some of the Pokemon that they gave them to were so powerful, their Mega forms are on paper weaker than the Mega form.
Yes.
Think about that. The version of the Pokemon they made to specifically be overpowered is weaker than the regular version. Begs the question, why not give it to another Pokemon?
Whoa, Garchomp looks really strong.
It's wild that some Pokemon are so powerful that even giving them a Mega form doesn't make them any more powerful, because, like, realistically it was hard at the time to make Garchomp even more overpowered.
And I believe the thing that makes it weaker is like it just loses 2 speed points, right? And that's it. It's just a minor drop in speed takes it below the speed tier it was in, which makes it virtually useless from a competitive standpoint. Also, like Aggron, they removed its typing, right? It made it pure steel, so now it can no longer take advantage of Head Smash.
Say, for example, like Mega Scizor as well. It's like the damage boost that you get from it gaining more attack is not as good as the damage boost you just get from having a Life Orb on Scizor, so...
With Technician, yeah. We're getting a little into the nitty-gritty, the minutiae of Pokemon here, but
exactly,
if you know, you know. And as fans of a series that have been interacting with Pokemon-related content for decades at this point, it's so frustrating to not see lesser-known Pokemon get their moment, right? When...
Yeah,
that design ethos was almost interesting.
It is very much just a classic problem that Pokemon has, where the cool ideas of the series in terms of like the new ideas they want to put in the video games also have to then go through the angle of, well, this needs to help market literally the biggest media empire in the world.
Besides Hello Kitty.
No, Pokemon's higher.
Oh, yeah, 'cause I know like Hello Kitty and Pokemon like often like tied for the top spot of singular most valuable bit of intellectual property on planet Earth, right?
I believe Pokemon, like, a few years back did take over the mantle from Hello Kitty and Sanrio in general, but Pokemon is just this absolutely massive thing outside of the video game, so it's like, hey, we've got this cool new idea where we've given, like, Beedrill a Mega form. It's give one to Charizard and Mewtwo then.
Yeah, because we're going to put them in movies. Beedrill is going to be in one episode, Charizard can be in 20.
It's like,
we're not going to get a movie that's The Legend of Beedrill. I'm sorry. As much as I would love to watch that movie, The Legend of Beedrill's not getting made.
well, the big main battle at the end of, I think it was Pokemon like XYZ, I think was Ash using Ash Greninja to fight against Mega Charizard X, right? In the Pokemon Origins anime spin-off that they made, it was that he had a Mega Charizard X on Red's team fighting Mewtwo and just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mega evolution.
It's like, I understand that it makes sense from a marketing perspective, but from a fan perspective, the idea of we're going to take these lesser known or lesser appreciated Pokemon are just like, they've been power crept by the 750 we've released since the first couple
Pokemon,
games.
I should say, like Beedrill or Pinsir or Pidgeot, that even from their initial games were not that competitively viable in the first place.
Yes. And is that in that vein, is there a Pokemon you think should have got a Mega or would have liked to see get a Mega? Same questions to the folks at home.
Yeah, definitely let us know like which Pokemon you would like to see a Mega form of, and I'm kind of a little bit mad that we just never got Mega Eevee.
Just in general, more Eevee evolutions, right? We talk about it all the time of
Yes.
How did Pokemon drop what seemed to be a ball that they passed themselves of every new game you put a new Eevee in. Its gimmick is it can transform into anything. How has there not been like a rock version, a ghost version, a dragon version, a bug version?
Yeah, like that's the thing, right, is that they added new forms in like Generation 2 with Gold and Silver, in Generation 4 with Diamond and Pearl, and Generation 6 as well with Sylveon, and the introduction of the Fairy type, which is yet another reason why this game is super important, and the first new typing that had been added since the second generation to finally balance out Dragon types a little bit.
Yeah, and just that was coincided with the release of a new Eevee evolution, but since then, there's not been a single new evolution, despite even, like you think, just from a marketing perspective, besides Pikachu, Eevee's the most marketable Pokemon they have, to the point where it was Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. They know.
Yeah, it's one of those Pokemon that became a mascot via just fans pushing it rather
Fan
than
enthusiasm,
the Pokemon company pushing it. Like, Eevee was a popular Pokemon and they liked using Eevee in a lot of materials, but it's not like Eevee was ever really a main character in the anime, or really, never like one that they put into Smash Bros. As a Pokemon representative or anything. It was just, the fans really liked the gimmick of evolving your Eevee into your favourite type.
And virtually everything revolving around Eevee is fantastic. Like the Kimono Girls, who've been in the anime and the games, is a fantastic gimmick. One of my favourite teams to fight is the Kimono Girls, where they've all just got their own Eevee and they all have like their own distinct style based around. I just never understood how there's not been the other 11 types that we'd have Eevee for. I don't know how many have not had the Eeveelutions, but how are they not there? Because there's fan design ones, and they're all incredible, right?
They are, yeah. And it's just maddening that, like, okay, we're probably not going to get a normal evolution of Eevee because that would be so far down the list. It's like literally the last option you would do, but the idea of instead of giving Eevee a normal evolution, give it a Mega evolution where it stays as Eevee.
I will say, though, Gigantamax Eevee, where it's just got the fucking... It becomes even fluffier, is incredible.
Yeah.
Same thing like Fat Pikachu, right? Like, oh, what's Gigantamax Pikachu? It turns into Fat Pikachu. Problem is, not competitive, because they also gave special Gigantamax forms to fucking, like, Charizard again.
Yeah, Charizard is just the bane of Pokemon at this point in my eyes. Of just, you need to stop making Charizard the poster child of every fucking game, because guess what, Game Freak? not everybody is a Gen 1er, okay? I'm sorry to let you know, but not every single person's favourite Pokemon is fucking Charizard.
Yeah, and admittedly we are approaching this from the competitive standpoint of...
I'm just talking, marketing.
We can see it from both, right? That's the point I was going to make. We're looking at it from the competitive standpoint of giving already good Pokemon access to broken gimmicks just makes people use those in the competitive scene. But also, hey, you've got 800 Pokemon. Why not get, Mega Kingdra? Is Mega Kingdra a thing? I feel like it is.
No, Mega Kingdra's not a thing.
Mega Kingdra, I like Kingdra.
Mm-hmm. Kingdra's a super cool Pokemon that just never gets any love, and there's literally hundreds of Pokemon that are in that category, and instead of giving love to them, half of the Mega Pokemon were just the Pokemon that everyone already used anyway because they were super powerful.
Yeah.
Or they were starters, and it's first partner Pokemon, as the Pokemon likes to call them. It's the starter Pokemon.
Well, that's one as well. We've got the starter Pokemon here. So, of the trio, I have them in front of me now, Lucas, of Fennekin, Chespin, or Froakie. What is your favourite starter of this generation?
It's Froakie.
I asked what your favourite starter was. I didn't ask what your favourite final evolution was because I was going to say, okay, that's your favourite starter, what's your favourite final evolution?
For me, all three of them, I picked Froakie because I liked Froakie. I didn't know Greninja was coming. Greninja's just fucking Greninja, and I love Greninja from a design perspective. Love him from being broken with his hidden ability and competitive perspective. I even kind of like the Ash Greninja, even though it's again...
busted as fuck.
Weird, marketing side of things, right, as well. And, oh no, but he's that, cool thing from the anime because people like Greninja. It's okay, yeah, sure. Greninja was already cool.
Fennekin to Delphox is such a downgrade, as is Chespin to Chestnut. Because Chestnut looks like a Pokemon where I look at it and I'm a guy, I start to get back pain now. Chestnut to me just looks like it's fucking in agony.
It does.
Right? It's hunched over. If it could make a noise, its cry should not be whatever its cries. Its cry should be the noise men in their 30s make when they sit down and just ugh.
Yeah.
And then just Delphox is such I cannot get over how bad Delphox looks compared to Fennekin.
Well, compared to Brazion as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, Brazion doesn't look like a final evolution, but I think in terms of all of the forms of all of the starter forms, Brazion is up there as one of the coolest in terms of design alone.
Foxwitch, yeah. And it's got a little stick, and that's what it uses to cast its spells. And there is obviously fan art out there of people who've drawn better versions, because Delphox, and here's the thing, I get the inspiration, it's a mage. I cannot get over how shit it's...
mage robes on, right? That's what its fur is meant to turn into, but it just looks bad. It's done poorly.
The stupid fur coming out of its ears. If it didn't have that, it might be passable.
And it's weird, fucking jumpsuit pants that it's got going on instead of, looking like an actual robe.
Yeah, and I said, with Chestnut, it just looks like it's in agony. It looks like it's in pain. It looks like it's trapped inside its own shell.
And then Greninja is such a good... amazing design that just off the look of it alone, Sakurai went, that's going in Smash Bros.
Going in Smash Bros, yeah, because didn't Sakurai not even know what its moveset was going to be? It's just it looks cool.
Yeah, he didn't know what the Pokemon was, how popular the Pokemon was going to be, what moves it can learn. He just went, that's a fucking cool Ninja Frog.
And you know what? Ninja Frog is great. I love the idea of Ninja Frog, and you mentioned this is an important game. It is, because this is the game where they started going, you know what people really like? They love anthropomorphic final evolutions for their starters. And just myself and Lucas both sighed and rolled our eyes into the back of our heads and oh, for fuck's sake. Every time a starter turns into just an anthropomorphic... See, I feel weird.
Yeah.
We've had this since the first gen with Mr. Mime. I feel weird that Mr. Mime has to eat on the floor.
It's weird as well, because the Pokemon Company think Mr. Mime's weird. Famously, when Pokemon Detective Pikachu were coming out, obviously the production team were talking to the Pokemon Company and Game Freak and stuff of hey, you're consulting on this movie. What is a Mr. Mime? And they're like, he's a Mr. Mime.
But what is that?
Okay, but what's Mr. Mime? He looks like he's a human, but not. They're like, yeah, we don't know what Mr. Mime is. But then he lives with, like, Ash's mum, definitely not in a sexual way.
Yeah, but that's the thing, and that's what freaks me out. And we've known that since the very first game of Mr. Mime is fucking weird. I accept it with Kadabra, sure.
Kadabra is one of those of, like, the Pokedex entry says that it's like a child that turned into a Pokemon, right? And then it's okay, but why are there thousands of Kadabras then?
Well, there's no kids in that universe, so I guess it makes sense, right? But
there's only kids. There's only children.
But it's fucking weird, and I don't like it. And they keep doing it with new gens. Of every new gen has the starter turn anthropomorphic. Like Quaxley, cool little like water duck. It turns into like, it looks like a guy wearing a costume, and I don't want to hang out with a guy who looks like someone wearing a bad fursuit.
I get it, it's cool, it's a carnival dancer, but why can it not look more like a duck?
Why does it look like a dude wearing a costume?
Like, why is Meowscarada just a magician in a fursuit?
Yeah. Why is it not like a cool... Weed Lion, man. Like, that was the fan art drawing of it, right? People were like, oh, it's going to turn into a lion instead of a ruff. It's going to have like a giant leaf. It's going to be Weed Lion.
Yeah.
It's like, nah, man, it's a person, like I said, it's a magician wearing a fursuit. Like Typhlosion standing on its back legs is the same as like I said, a bear rearing up.
They're now so afraid to have anything that just sits on all four legs, right? Or more. It's like, obviously there was I can't remember the Skeledirge, right? The crocodile. It's like at least it's like it's a fucking crocodile, but then it has to get up and sing in a microphone. It's like, I think it was way worse with Sword and Shield starters, where they like Cinderace is just a fucking footballer.
Yeah, like, it looks like a mascot for a football team.
Yeah.
Remember, it was like, what was it recently? A group chat was popping off because like the Pokemon couldn't release like a life-size Gardevoir.
Yeah.
And the entire internet collectively went, what have you fucking done?
Yeah, that thing sold out instantly. And not for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Oh dear, but going back to Pokemon X and Y itself, Carl.
Yes.
They're the first installments of the 6th generation of the main Pokemon game series. They were first announced in January 2013 by Nintendo president Satoru Iwata through a Nintendo Direct. Pokemon X and Y released worldwide in October 2013. They were the first Pokemon games to have a simultaneous global release.
Recently, just to sign that like in 2013... entertainment-wise, the world was pretty largely connected, right?
Yeah. It's a sign that just it's become a lot easier over the years to make sure that things are distributed equally and simultaneously, and just it leads to a more connected fan base upon release, right? Is like the entire world, the entire internet is talking about the same game and the same things at the same time.
Yeah.
Creates that like nice synergy, and that means that they can also release like all of the merch and the anime and spin-offs like all at the same time worldwide too.
Well, it's like Pokemon and like by extension Nintendo, who like own a big stake in it. Just they have got their marketing on fucking lock, because I can't think of anything that the Pokemon company have released merch-wise that hasn't either sold out immediately or you just can't get for love nor money. Because they seemingly know exactly... They must have, like, the most on-it marketing researchers ever. Because they always seem to print exactly as many as people want. Or just slightly less than that. So they're always sold out. Lucas, what do we both own that we saw for sale? And we knew that shit was going to sell. Because we saw it coming. We saw that this was going to sell out instantly.
Yes.
And what is that Pokemon, Lucas?
I don't currently have it to hand. I don't know whether you do.
Oh, I've not got it to hand, but no one's going to see it either. I'll send in a picture. We can both take a picture of us with
of course, I will pull up a picture of Carl and I posing with our lovely little Wiglets.
Hey, and Lucas, do you remember the day I bought those? Because that's one of my favourite stories about me and you, because we'd been out for a drink or two, I think. We were back in we were playing like Smash Bros or something, and then just, I turned to you, and you were just, your character hadn't moved in like 20 seconds, because you were just lying on the sofa in hysterics, crying, looking at your phone. And what had you spotted?
I just spotted that Pokemon had tweeted out like, hey, we're just announcing that we're releasing a Wiglet plush. And I was like, no, they can't do this.
Specifically, they were releasing the 10 3/4 inches of Wiglet. And like, you just turned to me and went, Carl, imagine if we had just like 10 3/4 inches of Wiglet right now, and
God.
before you'd even finished talking, I'd already ordered 2 because I knew that shit's gonna sell out instantly.
Yep.
It's like the Clodsire, right? And they released like the giant Clodsire. That shit sold out instantly.
Baby whoopers, yeah.
Because there's just sometimes you look at something Pokemon announces and go, that's gonna sell out because it's too good, and they're very smart to not make too many.
And I love the fact that now it's like basically via the fact that like Pokemon Company have released them specifically in this order as well. Like they released the life-size Lucario plush that's like 4 foot something tall, and it's like all the pictures are just him like, you know, holding a little like tea towel for you in the kitchen and stuff, or like patiently waiting in the corner. And then after that, they like released the life-size God of War, and now it makes Lucario look like the cook plush.
In the chair, he's in the corner watching me just plow my God of War. It's like, wait, what? Let's move away from that and something that's more wholesome. And people, I said every Pokemon is someone's favorite Pokemon, and one of my favorite genres of post and tweet on the internet is just when someone gets their favorite Pokemon as a plush. Like there's the classic, right, of the guy's like, it's just me, my girlfriend, and her 4-foot Mareep.
Yeah.
And she's got the giant Mareep in bed, right? And in that vein, is there like a plush of a Pokemon that you would love to own? So I know you probably like to have a Charger Bug, right?
I was about to say I would love to have a Charger Bug. I'd love to have a plush Klefki as well. I think just people shit on Klefki so much since the launch of Pokemon X and Y. It was like Gen 5, people saw Trubbish and they were like, oh my god, they're just making like fucking Pokemon out of bin bags now. And then Gen 6's version was, of course, the punching bag just became Klefki. Like, what do you mean a set of keys can be a Pokemon?
It's like, well, they kind of had that theme for a while now of ghost Pokemon, besides like Gengar and stuff. It's like, it's possessed objects.
Yeah, and Voltorb is a fucking Pokeball that they drew eyes on. Shut the fuck up, people.
Well, hey, don't forget Geodude, rock with arms. Let's go.
Muck is like, Muck and Grimer. Slime, bigger slime.
As you said, people make fun of Trubbish, but Trubbish completes the trifecta started by Grimer and Coughing. Of Coughing is air pollution, Grimer is water pollution, and Trubbish is land pollution. The pollution trio.
It finally brought the third loving pollution into our life. It's like,
and that's another one. I'd probably not want to own a Trubbish plush, but I wouldn't mind if I saw someone with a Trubbish plush. Like, Joe, when you like go to the Pokemon store and you see like the kid holding their plush, if I saw a kid who had a Trubbish, I'd be like, that's a kid who's... I want to know how that kid came to like that as their favourite Pokemon. There's a story there, right?
We always kid about the fact that like, oh, well, nobody's favourite Pokemon is, like, Finneon, right? Like,
someone's, right? Someone out there likes it.
Basic fish number 5. Like, Luminion looks pretty cool in its evolved, glorious form, but we always make, like, for some reason we picked on Finneon, and then I remember at one point we've had, like, a couple of comments going like, hey, actually, no, I love Finneon. It's like...
I think Finneon's great.
There's always one.
Every Pokemon is someone's favourite Pokemon. And just, like, Pokemon Company's aware of that, and they make plushes of all of them. But, man, yeah, like, I would love to... not own a Charger Bug, but I'd love for you to own a Charger Bug, just a little cube. Just a little space heater in the corner. I'd want a Shedinja, personally.
Shedinja is your favourite Pokemon, right?
It's my absolute favourite Pokemon, yes. I'd love to just have a Shedinja and just have it on my, it's on my bed. Just sat there waiting. There you go, Shedinja.
Speaking of favourite Pokemon, Carl,
yes.
This game introduced a new type, which is Fairy type, which...
It did indeed, yes.
They added some new Fairy types, and they also went back and, like, retcon some older Pokemon to have Fairy typing, like, for example, Clefairy, which is like,
That's the most obvious one, right? If like, we've made a new typing, Fairy typing, what should be a Fairy type? Well, of course, fucking Clefairy.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of the opposite of when, like, Gen 5 introduced a couple of Pokemon, like, Boofalhunt, that seemed like an evolution of Tauros, and
it's just not.
Alomomola, I always get it wrong, like, that should be an evolution of Luvdisc, but neither of them were.
Yeah.
It's like,
there's a couple of noteworthy, like, just missteps in Pokemon's history in that regard, like with Onix. They've never canonized Crystal Onix from the anime, even when they introduced the idea of regional forms.
Even when they introduced the idea of crystallized Pokemon in the new game.
But they did like the Alolan Pokemon, right? They've got regional forms. They had like a Geodude that had electric typing. That's the perfect time to crystal Onix and make a rock fairy Onix.
crystal onyx!
No kidding!
Its whole body is made out of crystal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's baffling, and maybe with Generation 10 potentially coming out on like the, I think, 30th anniversary of when Pokemon might, come out in like, if they come out in 2026, it'll be the 30th anniversary, which means that they're just going to give so much love to Gen 1, I presume, and maybe we'll get Crystal Onyx finally there.
Yes, and here's a question for you then. So I have in front of me now the list of new Pokemon that were introduced in X and Y. Besides the starters, do you have a favourite new Pokemon that was introduced? Because besides bug Pokemon, my favourite Pokemon are the fossil types. And I'm a big fan of Aurorus and Tyrantrum. Because Tyrantrum is just... I know it's a stupid T-Rex, but I've always loved its typing of Rock Dragon, but also the fact it has Strong Jaw, and the fact it can learn all like the bite moves. And also with Aurorus, it just looks fabulous as fuck.
It does. Like, both of them look cool as fuck. And I've just got like the list up myself now, so I'm just going to give a shout out to like a few of my favourites.
Let's go, because I've got a few more. But you name one, I'll name one, and we'll just go until we stop.
Okay, well, I really like Vivian and the idea of like, oh, well, what do we do with this new like bug butterfly type thing? It's like, well, they really lent into the themes of like Paris and fashion with Pokemon X and Y. It's like based around France for this region of Kalos, and the idea that, well, we're going to have like the fabulous butterfly with all of the different wing designs depending on where you were based in the world.
Not to mention as well, that leans into the original inspiration for Pokemon of collecting bugs, of collecting different kinds of butterfly.
Yeah. And
mine will be Skrelp and Dragalage, because Leafy Sea Dragon is an amazing animal in our world. Great typing, Poison Dragon, even though it's really weak to a lot of moves, but I just think it looks really cool.
Speaking of a name that Carl gets wrong because he only read it,
Dragalage.
I believe it's Dragalge.
Dragalge is in algae is in...
Algae and dragon.
Hey, I only ever read it in the game, and for me it's Dragalage, so fuck you.
Yeah, they're really strong. I really like, speaking of, a little two-stage Pokemon, Pancham and Pangoro.
I was going to mention those two, like Pangoro, like the only animal in Pokemon that can just cure things by punching, because it has Iron Fist, a massive attack stat, and can learn Power-Up Punch, and then you give it that, and then a Metronome. And it's like after 5 moves, it's doing like 1 million damage per punch. It's like Pangoro can cure cancer by punching it, confirmed. Let's go.
And it can learn Drain Punch. And
yeah,
like a fantastic Pokemon that just got annihilated by its typing of him 4 times.
Absolutely. Like, dark fighting is terrible, but I love making fighting teams. And Pangoro is always on there because it learns one of my favourite fighting type moves that never gets really much play, Storm Throw, which is like the throw that always does critical hits.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's like the idea of like, what's this fucking panda bear gonna do? Just fucking throw your ass.
Speaking of throwing your ass, just another one, I know that I'm taking over, but...
I was going to mention Pangoro next. Holucha, oh man, speaking of a fighting team, because that's when I make my fighting team, I think, okay, I want a distinct team of like different fighting styles. So you have like Hitmonlee on there for like kickboxing, Hitmonchan for boxing, Pangoro for like wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You have what's the big fat one with the palms?
Oh, Hariyama.
Hariyama for like Hariyama Grande for the sumo, and then Holucha for just that like the Lucha Libre baby.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like lucha wrestling, like a lot of it is like high flying acrobatics, right? Make it a bird type luchador Pokemon. It's like,
and just the idea as well of like, a bird's plumage is very colourful, but they make it look like a luchador mask, and it's that's so good. That's such a good design.
Have you got any more that you want to give a shout out to?
I'm going to give a shout out to like just Talonflame, the bravest bird.
Oh, the fucking bravest.
The bravest bird. Because something about Talonflame that always pissed me off is that its animation doesn't move, so it just constantly looks like it's just stuck in midair. And then the only other Pokemon I want to give a shout out to is Trevenant. I love Trevenant.
Pumpkaboo and Trevenant are so good. Sorry, it's Phantom and Trevenant and Pumpkaboo and Gorgeist. Yeah. They're both excellent Halloween Pokemon. Just
amazing Pokemon, yeah. I just the naming as well, like Trevenant, Revenant, Tree. It's like that is so strong. The pun work was really strong that gen.
It was, yeah, and like then there's a bunch of other... Like, I think this is... In terms of how small the Pokedex is, I just think that they went with, like, obviously a lot of the lack of new Pokemon is made up for with the new Mega Pokemon. Yeah. But this is such a small, concise, I think it said, like, 72 Pokemon. It's so just, like, narrowed down because it just feels like the all-killer, no-filler of Pokemon dexes.
With the exception of Diggersby. Diggersby fucking sucks, and I will never forget the story of like the guy who's like posting on like our Pokemon of like, okay, how do I get my daughter to stop crying? She had a Bunnelby and it evolved. And his daughter won't stop crying. He's like, can I get the Bunnelby back? And it's like, no, you're going to have to go into the game when she's asleep and catch her one and name it the same thing and level it back up and tell her it's that and give it an Everstone and never let her take the Everstone off.
Yeah.
And just that story always stuck with me. Because I imagine like, if you're a little kid and you like Bunnelby and it evolves it to Diggersby, you're like, the fuck is this?
And again, I've seen people that really like Diggersby design. Like, it's just personal taste, but yeah, it's not the cute little Bunnelby evolution that we all hoped for. But
yeah,
you've got things like Esper and Meowstic. Like, I really love the female Meowstic. It just looks fabulous as fuck. Then, of course, everyone's fucking favorite competitive Pokemon this gen, aside from Talonflame, Aegislash and Doublade.
The thing about Doublade is Doublade carried me through super training. No guard, rock slide with horde encounters. Was just incredible for leveling up Pokemon.
I think I ended up with like a level 100 Tropius just from the horde battle training because it had like Earthquake, Sweet Scent, and Fly.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, that's another Pokemon I've got an affinity for because I just like... It ended up carrying me through the game, so I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I know it's shit. Carnivine. I never like Carnivine. Ended up growing on me a lot because I like the Cactus Pokemon. Because I like Cacturne, but Cacturne wasn't in the game, so I got Carnivine. And I'm just really liking Carnivine, even though it's terrible competitively. It has shit stats and no utility. It has no niche whatsoever. But still, Carnivine, baby.
And, like, one that really grew on me just because I found a shiny of it is Slurpuff. That I found, like, a shiny Slurpuff just randomly without, like, hunting for it and just called it Puff Daddy and kept it in the team for the rest of my, like, entire run.
It was like me with, like, Trevenant. I ended up liking that Pokemon because I just caught a shiny Phantom. And it grows up and
Trevenant looks so good as well.
Because it's white and red and it looks like Ronald McDonald. So I just called it Ronald.
That's what I was thinking of. It just looks like the cool dead haunted tree, but not...
No, I just thought like Ronald McDonald, so I called it Ronald and just took that shit online.
Fair, yeah. And then, obviously, it goes without saying, really, that Sylveon's fantastic. And then
Sylveon is fantastic, especially the shiny, which is, like, Trans Rights colours, right?
Well, both versions are, right? Yeah. They're both, like, the pink and blue, and then it's the blue and pink. Noibat and Noivern.
With the exception of Diggersby, which can go fuck itself,
yeah,
everything on that list is, like, a 10. Even, like, Heliolisk, which... Terrible typing, it's terrible competitively. I think it looks cool because the Frill Dragon. I also love that it learns Parabolic Charge, which is an interesting, unique move that allows it to absorb health via electricity.
Fucking Floette and the Eternal Floette that we never got, even though it's programmed in the game. Just, there's like, it's such a strong list of Pokemon. Then we've got the Mega Pokemon, and Carl, like, who do you want to shout out Mega Pokemon?
Mega Ampharos. Just when Mega Ampharos is like, this is what it used to look like when it's sung in a power metal band back in the 80s. Because the fact it's constantly in a breeze, because they know how fabulous that shit looks.
And I think I might have even sent you a shiny Mareep, right? And like...
You did.
I had multiple of them, and, you know, I back in the day got a shiny Mareep for when Mega Ampharos was still able to be used, and like... A giant pink power metal Ampharos is like, fuck yes.
Well, Shiny Mareep's the best, because Mareep, I think, is my second favourite Pokemon behind Shedinja, because Shiny Mareep has pink fur, so it's just a candy floss sheep.
It is, yeah.
I guess we have to give shouts to that legendary like horde battle encounter where the person encountered 5 Shiny Mareep in a horde battle, and in a horde battle you can only catch 1 Pokemon. You have to knock out the other 4, and someone worked out the statistics of finding 5 shiny Pokemon at once. It's like, you've got more odds of winning the lottery 6 times in a row than you have of bumping into 5 shiny Pokemon at once.
There's a lot of Mega Pokemon that I really enjoy, and I guess I can just like click on the list to make sure that I'm shouting out some of them here, but I also just think like shout out to the idea of like the absolute most emo of Pokemon of Mega Absol. Just
Oh yeah.
that was already the emo Pokemon alongside Umbreon, which is why I love them both. And just they went all in on like, how do we possibly make this like the most?
Powerful as it was, Mega Kangaskhan, the animation of it pulling the baby out of the pouch and high-fiving it is fucking incredible.
The idea of Mega Kangaskhan pulling the baby out to do extra hits every turn, it's great. It just made it busted as fuck.
And I guess we've got to give... I want to talk more about Horde battles as well, because I love that they use Horde battle as a chance to tell like some visual jokes. For example, like you'll occasionally find a pseudo-wudo among like tree venants.
It
just hides in there
within the trees.
Yeah.
And obviously we mentioned earlier Crystal Onyx. I just pulled up the list of Mega Pokemon now. I forgot that like Mega Steelix had all the crystals coming out of it to kind of
still though
that, but we
it's
never
not
got
Crystal
the
Onyx.
Crystal Onyx, right? Absolutely loved in Omega Ruby. I know that they had these, but like we're talking about just Mega
ones.
Pokemon in general, but like Mega starters from Gen 3, like Mega Swampert, man.
Mega Swampert.
Horde battle wise, I just looked up like the funny visual jokes you can get is sometimes when you bump into a bunch of Zangoose, there'll be a Seviper there, and the Zangoose will attack the Seviper first.
Because there's a rivalry between them if you look at like the Pokedex listings of them, right?
There's a great story from someone out there where they found a Horde battle and it had a shiny Seviper, but all of the Zangoose killed it because you can't catch them. So they had, it's a shiny Seviper, and all the Zangoose just fucking ganged up on it and beat its ass.
Beat the shit out of it. Oh, that's great. Yeah, just I did enjoy the Horde battles, but that was one aspect that just pissed me off because you can have things like that happen, right?
Admittedly, though, it's very funny to hear when it happens to other people.
Yes, yeah. I looked up, like, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of its design, but I really liked Mega Heracross competitively.
The Heraboss.
The Heraboss, I really liked. Mega Gardevoir and Gallade, Mega Banette. I think Mega Banette might be one of my favourite out of all of them design-wise, because it's like the haunted puppet doll, but then the ghost is like Mega Banette bursting out of this haunted little
Mega
doll,
Sableye,
right?
just hiding behind the giant crystal.
Yeah, Mega Mawile as well. Just all of a sudden it goes from like the little hidden mouth at the back of its head to just two giant ferocious ones. Absolutely fucking
like Mega
sure.
Electric, where it just turns into the Rhombus. The Rhombus dog, what do you do now?
Oh, Manectric, yes.
The Manectric, sorry. It's just like, Electric's the little one, right? Or Electrike. We're just like that. It's like, defeat the Rhombus. Just the power displayed by that fucking Rhombus, man.
Oh, and then they had to fuck it all up by doing something stupid like Mega Rayquaza.
Why? The thing is, well, like, you could have a Mega Rayquaza and a Primal Groundon on the same team, and it was... That's fine. What is a fucking Beedrill to do against Mega Rayquaza? Like, what are you really going to choose when you can have one Mega Pokemon on your team and the Megas go from Mega Beedrill to Mega Rayquaza? In arguably one of the strongest Pokemon they have ever made.
Yes, 100%.
One of the single strongest Pokemon ever. And you can have that or a Beedrill. And it's like, well, I wonder what I'm going to pick.
Yeah, what's a little Mega Pidgeot to do?
He's just a humble bird with like a fucking swag haircut. What's he going to do against the dragon?
I'm really excited that hopefully we've already seen footage by the time this video comes out of Pokemon Legends EA in proper form, and I'm really excited to return to Kalos and see Lumio City and see what the fuck they're doing with all this, because I think it was mentioned at some point that like the entire game is based around Lumio City itself.
Just give me more Mega Beedrills.
They've put the Mega symbol in the trailer for the first trailer, so like potentially that would more than imply that Mega Pokemon are going to come back. I'd love to see more like Mega Pokemon forms given to the unspoken lesser Pokemon. Yeah,
Pokemon that need it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Mega Hitmonchan.
Oh, Mega Hitmontop, just make it a Beyblade. Make it an actual Beyblade. Just do it. You cowards.
I love Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee and Hitmontop.
Yeah, I think Kalos is one of the coolest regions that we've had. It's inspired by Paris and France. I know that Paris is within France just before anyone comes at me, but just, yeah, it's specifically inspired a lot by Paris and the idea of fashion and just elegance and stuff.
And the patisseries, like with the going to cafes and having coffees, and we mentioned Furifru, right? It's like the poodle dog that you can change its haircut. Swag dog.
Not anymore, because if you put it in Pokemon Home, it just goes back to default.
Oh no, just like when you got to go to work, right? So you're not allowed to have that haircut anymore. You got to have the one of the 2 acceptable haircuts for a man.
I mentioned earlier, just like it's very important because it went into 3D, which in my eyes, Pokemon has not been as good since they made the move to 3D, and I do like X and Y a lot, but I still think that if I was to say like what is categorically the best games, it's probably still like Black and White and Black and White 2. It lost a lot of juice when it went into 3D and stopped being like 2D sprite-based games.
There's a lot of charm to those sprites.
There is, rather than just, as you mentioned, Pokemon like fucking Talonflame that are just stuck in like default wing pose. Like
the only one that makes sense for is Wingull, because it's fucking hilarious. When you bump into the horde of Wingull and it's like, oh no, the flight pattern.
Obviously, I'm really looking forward to Pokemon Legends here. I always pick up Pokemon games and always have a lot of hope. I have the Hopium and the Copium, and I don't know why I keep going into these Pokemon games expecting good things, because the last 10 years has been a bit rough around the edges, to say the least.
Yeah.
But I love seeing new Pokemon. I'm always excited to just at least see new Pokemon, because even outside the mainline games, at least we get cool new merch and cool, cute new Charger bugs to look at all the time.
We do, yeah. And Lucas, just to end on, I sent you the picture of the Wingull Horde battle, the B-52 Squadron. Look how threatening that is. The Squadron.
Just what is a lowly Mega Tyranitar meant to do?
Against the Squadron.
I really hope that Pokemon Legends EA is good. Let us know what your thoughts and feelings are now that we've hopefully seen the game down in the comments below. And yeah, one day I'll make Pokemon Legends be played by Karl, whichever game people would prefer to see. I'll make it happen. I'll make it happen, baby. But thank you all for watching and have a lovely day.
Cheers, everybody.
The shame, Karl. The shame.
So, Lucas, we are here at the end of a Wiki Weekends video, and we're supposed to be giving a shout out to members of our Patreon right now, but we've got a confession to make, haven't we?
Yeah, shout out to Karl for doing the entire show without recording any of it.
Because I spilled this cup of tea onto my keyboard. Here's the clip of it happening without proper audio, because when I spilled the tea onto my keyboard, it pressed stop on the recording.
And Karl, just as a special thank you, we always like to end our Wiki Weekends videos with a shout out to the people on our shout out tier on our lovely Patreon.
I just spilled my tea.
Okay.
No, it's fine. Let's go.
Okay. Karl spilled his
more
tea.
Important than my keyboard, which is now going over here.
We've been paid money to ignore Karl spilling tea. It's okay.
I guess I know what I'm using some of the Patreon money for this month.
Oh, so, we're going to do the round of shout-outs all again to make sure that it's all in nice audio quality.
Yes, because we do want to shout out the people supporting us on Patreon in the highest quality we are able to, even though it was very funny when I spilled the tea.
It was. But Karl, who is the first person we've got to shout out?
Well, that is, of course, B of Awesome. And these names are in no particular order, unless you consider alphabetical order to be an order, in which case they're totally in order, and B of Awesome, is at the front of the queue. If anyone out there would like to subscribe to our Patreon as a name that starts with an A, if Aaron A. Aronson's out there.
I was going to make the joke. I was about to make the joke, just the Aaron A. Aronson coming in, but yes.
You did good, kid.
Ta.
What's your name?
B of Awesome.
Sorry?
If Aaron A. Aronson is out there and wants to subscribe and wants to go ahead of B of Awesome, you're more than welcome to. But for now, B of Awesome is the front of the pack. But they're trailed closely behind by Who Lucas.
Well, I hope that we're getting the name right this time, because we, do this monthly, but the person pointed out mid-month that we've been getting their name incorrect. It's not, in fact, Dan Daly. I believe it's Dan Dilly. And I hope we're getting that right. And if anyone else has a problem with the pronunciation of the name, let us know. We're just here to show appreciation for the people on the highest tier on Patreon, and hopefully Dan Dilly is the right way to say it. And we really appreciate the fact that you're putting up with us mispronouncing your name. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We can only apologise, and I will say that Dan Dilly is much more fun to say, because it does mean that I can say Dan Dilly Dally Shilly Shally.
Yes?
Oh.
Oakley.
Dan Dilly.
Oakley Doakley.
Yes, and the next person we'd like to give a shout out to is simply Judge Dredd. And I'd like to think that's the actual Judge Dredd who's just you know what? I'm sick of just shooting criminals and riding around on the Lawmaster in Mega City 1. Let's go just watch some Wiki Weekends. So thank you to Judge Dredd.
DNA is a perfect match for
Judge Dredd.
It's a lie! The evidence has been falsified! It's impossible! I never broke the law! I am the law!
So I guess shout outs to Judge Dredd, as you say, you are the law, but you're also a legend.
I like to think of, the amount of times you hear people being well, I'm a truck driver and I listen to podcasts all day while I'm driving. Just Judge Dredd on their bike going through Mega City 1 with the Wiki Weekdays podcast just playing in the corner.
If it was me riding through Mega City 1 on a cool motorcycle, I'd be listening to Synthwave, but this Judge Dredd likes to listen to our podcast and our video, so well done you.
Clearly a person of taste, Carl. And the last person of taste that we've got to shout out today is Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka. And I just always have to shout them out of just, you've been here for a good time, not a long time, but I inspire everybody else. We do appreciate everyone for just watching, not necessarily financially supporting, but if anyone thinks they can come in with a more baller name than Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka, I implore you.
As we said last time, if anybody out there wants to test the limits of how long a name on Patreon can be, give it a go. Because so far, Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka is the longest name we have to shout out. And also, that name is up here forever now. Last time we did one of these recordings and shout outs at the end, just the entire time I was making a cup of tea after the fact, doing the edit, it's just Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka, like a spell to ward off evil or witches or something.
Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka. Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka. Woo Won King Day Willy Wonka. Well, and hopefully to ward off the evil that is this channel going away anytime soon, which we're not planning on, but just, hyperbole
Where are
and
you
all
going
that.
with this?
Yeah, I just say, support us on Patreon or watch the videos till the end like you're doing currently. Share, subscribe, all that good jazz, and thank you for watching.
That's the thing. Anyone who's watching this conversation right now has watched to the very end of the video, and for that we can only say thank you.
Of course, yes. Thank you very much. Have a lovely
Have a nice day.